Hello, everyone, and welcome to CRATV, where we talk about politics, policy, and politicians, all from a conservative perspective, right here in the great state of California. So please take a moment, like and share the program, and encourage your friends to do the same. Also, if you're watching us on Facebook or YouTube, please take a moment and hit that notification button. That way, you'll be notified as soon as we go live, and you'll then be able to participate in the live chat as the program is taking place. Also, would like to encourage you, please take a moment and join the California Republican Assembly. We are the largest and fastest growing grassroots Republican organization in the state of California. And here's a video that'll kind of tell you a little bit about us and what we're about. That's right, folks. Join the California Republican Assembly. As I like to say, we're the Republican wing of the Republican Party here in the state of California. I also like to say that, if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. Don't be part of the problem. Become a member today. Also want to let you know, folks, it is election time. That's right. There's an election going on right now, and CRA has a stable of quality candidates that we are supporting for statewide office, for local office, and we want to encourage you to, encourage your friends. I know you have friends out there who probably have never voted Republican before, but hey, encourage them that if they want something better, maybe they should do something different, and vote Republican. That's right, folks. We make it real simple. We have a list of candidates out there that are available for you to support. And I want to encourage you, take a moment and go online, go to our website, and there you'll find information about candidates that you can endorse or that you can support. In fact, all you got to do is look right there, and you'll see on our website, cragop.org/endorsements, and you can find a list of all the candidates that you would ever want to support. You can find candidates for federal office, for congressional office, for statewide office. You can also find candidates down there for state legislative office and even local CRA endorsements. Folks, They are all right there waiting for you. So all you got to do, once again, is go to cragop.org/endorsements. And folks, I'm telling you right now, we get thousands of people that are going there every day looking for conservative candidates to vote for. And, hey, if they're going there, hey, why shouldn't you go there and find those candidates as well? So please, once again, please take a moment to go there. All right, I think it's now time for us to get into today's show. Now, for those of you who don't know and maybe don't follow the legislative cycle, last Friday was what's called the House of Origin deadline in the California Legislature. That means that any bill in the legislature, in order for it to continue moving forward, had to get out of the house in which it was originated. Meaning, bills that were in the assembly were assembly bills, had to get out of the assembly, pass out of the assembly, and get moved over to the Senate. And bills that were Senate bills or originated in the Senate had to get out of the Senate and go over to the assembly. So what I wanted to do today was a bit of a legislative update and kind of tell you where key bills that we're dealing with, where those bills are at. And that's part of our Take Action program. That's why we have a Take Action program where we've been sharing with you information on various key bills and letting you know where we stand on them. Unfortunately, being California as conservative, most of the bills we wind up opposing. But we let you know where those bills are, and we give you the ability to make your voice heard on those particular pieces of legislation. So what I wanted to do now is to kind of let you know where some of those bills are that we've taken positions on, that we've stood against, and let you know, how we've done so far and where some bills are at, and basically how much farther we still have to go. So let's start with bills that we actually have been successful in terminating. One such bill is Assembly Bill 1993. Now, this is a bill that would have basically required employers to institute a vaccine mandate. Let's go down here and let's take a look at the bill a little bit here. And as you can see, this particular bill back in March was actually halted by the authors. So in other words, a bill that would have required members of the legislature, or would have required employers to get vaccines for their members, or their employees, require their employees to get vaccines. That bill has been taken out in the California Legislature, which, by the way, gives us something very, very happy gives us something to be very, very happy about. And once again, here you'll kind of see the bill. By the way, just so you know how this work is, so if you come here to the bill, right? If you come here to the bill and you go and you click, this is the bill information. So you click on that, and then that'll open up and it'll take you right to the Leg Info page where the bill language is. You look up here, there's his votes, history on the bill analysis, everything that you need to know about this particular piece of legislation will be right there. Now, once you've read about the bill, we also have kind of our summary of what the bill is all about. And then down here, you have the ability to then send a message on the bill. Now, we have a pre-written message here. So if you open it up, bam, there's a message. There's the message that we've already written, but you can amend this and make it your own, right? You amend this, you make it your own, and then you just come down here and then you just make your voice heard, and boom, you press that button, and now you have sent your letter to the folks who are about to vote on this legislation. Now, if you've already done this, guess what? You need to do it again. The reason why is because it's gone to the other house. So all of those letters that you've sent to for this bill, the assembly, yeah, those don't necessarily get forwarded to the Senate. So you want to make sure that you follow through and that you make your voice heard on this bill again, so that members of the state Senate will have an opportunity to hear what you have to say on this particular piece of legislation. It right there is that simple. All right. So moving right along, now we'll go on to the next piece of legislation. And the next piece of legislation is also a bill that we were successful in killing. That piece of legislation is a Senate Bill 871. SB 871 is forced vaccinations for students. In other words, for them to be enrolled in schools, they would require them to have been vaccinated. Well, luckily, in April, we were successful in killing this bill. This bill was actually withdrawn from the author withdrawn from consideration by the author. Well, because they knew that there was no way that he was going to get enough support to be able to pass this legislation. Clearly, people in the state of California were done with the idea of forced vaccinations. And so the bill wound up getting removed. That, once again, is another phenomenal victory for Californians, for us in the state of California when it comes to, it comes to liberty and, we'll call it medical liberty. All right, now we're going to move on to some other legislation that, unfortunately, is still moving through the legislative process. The first bill that we're going to look up here is Senate Bill 1390, which establishes California's Ministry of Truth. Now, what do I mean by Ministry of Truth? Down here, in essence, what the bill would have done would have placed social media platforms under strict government surveillance and imposing penalties and civil action, basically allowing lawsuits gets the spread of quote unquote harmful content or information. So in other words, if anyone on social media or if any social media were to share information that was outside of the normal orthodoxy, like, masks don't prevent COVID, right? Or vaccines don't prevent you from getting COVID, or that there are alternative ways in which to treat COVID-19. These are the sorts of things that, that they want to be able to fine people for. Now, this bill, I take that back. We were successful in killing this bill as well. Once again, this bill was pulled by the author. Good golly amale, we are even better than I thought we were. That's a good thing. That is actually a very, very good thing. All right, so that bill is dead by the author. So you see, we've had success when we've been able to get out our word, get out our message on a lot of these pieces of legislation. But here's the thing, folks. There's plenty of stuff that's still out there that's still moving that we definitely need your help with and definitely need to take out. Here's one. And now this is one that, many of you may not relate to, may not be concerned about, but it's very, very important to our right to keep and bear arms. And that is Assembly Bill 2156. On the 25th, it passed out of the Assembly and is now in the Senate. This is a bill that would end the age-old tradition of home-built firearms. It basically would make it so that you would not be able to do a home-built firearm or build a firearm at home. Now, mind you, we have a fundamental right to keep and bear arms. And what they've been doing is they've been actively going after our right to keep and bear arms by nibbling away at the edges. They're saying, you have a right to own a gun, but you don't have a right to buy a gun. And so they limit gun stores and they limit what guns you can buy. You don't have a right to buy ammunition, so they require background checks and restrict when, where, and how you can buy your ammunition. You don't have a right to carry one outside the home, and so they've made it very difficult for one to be able to exercise their right to bear arms outside of the home. And in this particular case, I want to say you don't have a right to build a firearm. Folks, it's about time that we let them know that we're tired of them nibbling away at the edges of the Second Amendment, and that's what stopping this bill is about. So once again, this bill is Assembly Bill 2156. It is now in the state Senate. If you have not made your voice heard on this and you are a supporter of the Second Amendment, I'm assuming that if you are watching this program, you're a supporter of the Second Amendment, then I'm going to assume that this is something that you want to get behind and that you want to take this bill out. Okay. Moving on to the next piece of legislation. Now, this is one that has probably garnered more opposition than any other piece of legislation that we're supporting. And that is Assembly Bill 2223, which provides protections for infanticide. Now, the author has said repeatedly, no, that's not what this bill does. But the very fact that they do not define some very, very key aspects in here as to when as to some timelines here regarding abortion, it leaves the door open for the interpretation that they want to allow for legal protection for infanticide, so that people can't be prosecuted for infanticide. And just so you know, there are definitely members of the Democratic Party who have made it clear that they believe that even after birth, that a child does not necessarily have the right to live, that their right to live is somewhat suspect. That's just the Democratic Party. I don't know what to tell you, but that's them. That is where they're at. So Anyway, this bill right here, it passed the assembly. And just so you know, and I'll go down here and I want you to see the vote on this. This is one we have a shot at, because if you look here, see these 9 votes right here? 9 members decided not to vote on the bill, right? Which basically means that there are definitely some people out there who do not support this idea, even in the Democratic Party. And that's what a no vote in this particular case means. All of these folks down here, most of these are all Democrats who oppose who didn't want to support, or at least knew that voting in favor of this legislation would definitely put them at risk. So once again, I share that with you to share that there is some hope on that particular bill. All right, let's move right along to the next piece of legislation. And once again, these bills now are all bills that are still moving through the legislative process. Okay, here's one. Once again, this is another firearms one. And, with everything that's been going on, whether it was the shooting that took place in Sacramento, or the one that took place in Orange County, or in Texas, or in Buffalo, New York, that right now firearms legislation is a hot topic. And so, they're doing everything they can to take advantage of the quote unquote crisis that they see looming. This is one that is aimed, once again, it's another bill that's aimed at nibbling away around the edges of the Second Amendment. And it's Assembly Bill 1594. And what it will allow is for firearms retailers and firearms manufacturers to be sued, right? The whole goal of this is, it's not so much that that people will be able to win these lawsuits, because they don't necessarily believe that people will be able to win them. But the thing is that by getting sued, a couple of things could potentially happen. One, they could be buried in legal fees and not be able to keep their business open because of the cost of legal fees, or they could start to have insurance problems where they're not going to be able to get legitimate insurance because once again, those insurance companies in many cases are going to have to pony up the legal fees. So once again, this is a bill that is very, very bad bill. Here's the thing I'll share with you. If we do not have firearms manufacturers, if we do not have firearms retailers, then we have no ability to purchase firearms in order to exercise our fundamental right to keep and bear arms. So that is a key piece of legislation that was in the Assembly, is now in the state Senate, and will soon be referred to a committee for them to be making some decisions on. All right, this particular bill right here stemmed out of the January 6th. Now, this particular piece of legislation would cause any organization, they say, that supports insurrection. Now, mind you, they define what happened on January 6th as an insurrection, even though nobody has been charged according to or in line with the Insurrection Act. Nobody has been charged. I mean, overwhelming majority of the people who have been charged with nothing more than obstructing, if they've been charged with obstructing an official proceedings and being in the Capitol or demonstrating in the Capitol when they weren't supposed to be. Right? Now, the interesting thing about this particular piece of legislation, and I'll show you this one when I show you the vote count, not a single Republican voted against it, even though they know the target of it. They didn't vote against it. Now, you will see here that pretty much what they all did was they all abstained, or they voted a no vote. Because in concept, it makes sense. You don't want an organization that actually supports the overthrow of our government or supports insurrection. You don't want them to get tax-exempt status. Having said that, we all know what the target of the bill is, and we know what their interpretation of a quote-unquote insurrection is, and we know it's not exactly consistent with what the rest of us believe an insurrection to be. So that's a bill that we oppose, and we encourage you to oppose as well. All right, moving on to Senate Bill 866. This allows minors to consent to vaccinations. Now, I want you to keep in mind that according to this particular bill, a minor and a 12-year-old, let me clarify, a 17-year-old cannot consent to go to a tanning salon on their own, with their parents' consent, but they can consent to getting a vaccine, one which we do not know the long-term consequences of. I think once again, we can all agree or disagree on what the short-term impacts are or all of that. But in the end, what we know is that in particular for children who are not as prone to, or as, what's the word I'm looking for? They are not as likely to be harmed by COVID as adults are. We know that, and we also know that they have several different, in particular, young males have several different side effects that are almost as likely as the side effects or the negative implications or the chance of them having a negative reaction to COVID-19 that some people have a concern about it. Some parents have a concern about it. And this is something that medically parents should be able to make a decision about. Children cannot be held legally and mostly civilly accountable for the decisions they make. So therefore they shouldn't be, if they can't make civil decisions, they shouldn't be able to make these decisions. This is something that parents who have a lot more experience ought to be able to make those decisions for their children. So this is once again a bill that passed off the Senate floor and is in the Assembly, and we need to stop this piece of legislation now. So once again, make sure your voice is heard. Here's another one that once again deals with COVID-19. You see a lot of these bills deal with COVID. This is basically in invasive COVID testing of children. In other words, they want to require children be tested for COVID, whether their parents want them to or not. We know right now, especially when it comes to some of the tests, we know that a lot of these tests do produce false negatives. We just really don't see, especially with the direction and with which not necessarily COVID infections, but hospitalizations with COVID are going. We don't see a need for this bill. We don't see a need for invasive testing. So once again, we're opposing this bill. This bill passed the Senate and has been sent to the California Assembly. And then we've got SB 906. Now, this one is interesting. So this particular piece of legislation, as it currently stands, treats students as threats who like guns. They treat them as violent threats. So, for example, you go shooting at the gun range, a kid goes shooting at the gun range with their dad, posts a picture on Instagram. Now, all of a sudden, he can be considered a violent threat and needs to be reported to law enforcement, right? That's what this bill does. Now, as originally introduced, this was going to require kids who this was going to require schools to ask students or parents if they own guns and how those guns were stored. That language has been removed from the bill. The bill actually was originally, when it came up, it was held in committee. They amended the bill and they changed it so that it now, the only real bad part of it is that it, once again, it treats students like violent threats just because they like guns or they support the shooting sports. And we've already seen in instances across the country where students have been suspended from school, expelled from school, brought in and questioned by police and by administrators simply because they displayed themselves with a picture of themselves with a firearm. Once again, engaging in illegal activity, right? So anyway, so that's a bill that we don't want supporters of this, young supporters of the Second Amendment, to be demonized in such a manner. And finally, we have this bill. This is SB 2098. SB 2098 punishes physicians for communicating quote-unquote misinformation on COVID. Now, once again, this is, if you put out information that is not consistent with the orthodoxy, with, the folks who have gotten just about everything wrong on COVID so far, those folks, if it doesn't fall in line with what they say, well, then you can be punished and perhaps even lose your license under this piece of legislation. It is just bad stuff. It has to do, number one, it's a violation of freedom of speech. But secondly, to act like there is one mode of thought, there's only one way of thinking on many of these aspects relating to COVID-19 or many other medical conditions, is once again just flat out wrong and needs to be stopped. This bill passed out of the Assembly. It's on its way to the Senate, and we want to encourage you to make your voices heard on this legislation. All right, so hey, those are the bills that we're tracking right now. And if you want to read more about any one of them, just follow the Take Action link in the description to this video. If there are other bills that you think we should be following, go ahead and message us, drop us an email. We are going to be adding some more bills to this. Folks, I'll be honest with you, it's a one-man show trying to track all this stuff. So if it doesn't get up right away, I will personally apologize right now, but trust me, I'm on it and we will get on it. But we need your help. We need you to not only make your voice heard, but we need you to share these pages on your Facebook page, on your Twitter page, on your Rumble page, on your MeWe, on your Getter. Wherever you have a following, we need you to share this information and get people engaged in this process, right? We need you to make your voices heard. So help us out, help us help you. It's really that simple. Okay, well, that's going to be it for today's CRATV. We very much appreciate you tuning in. We appreciate you liking and sharing the program and encouraging your friends to do the same. Remember, we are the conscience of the Republican Party and the Republican wing of the Republican Party in the state of California. We'll talk to you later.